Okay. Ani, bonsoir, and good evening, and welcome to our regular council meeting, as we normally do on the first meeting of the month. I turn over the chair to the deputy mayor, and so with that, Deputy Mayor, it's to you.
Thank you, Mayor Pajot. I'd like to start off the meeting by acknowledging that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area and wish to recognize the neighboring community of Dokis First Nation. While we meet today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So with that, we have the adoption of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Will and Councillor Bob.
Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Just to mention, we do have a little, we're just gonna switch some things around here. We're gonna move around 6.6.1, which is the short-term rental. We're gonna move it ahead of just under 6.3 public works. We'll start off with that. And then from there, 6.3.3 is being removed from the agenda as Martin has requested a little bit more time to, oh, Mark wants to speak.
Yeah, bullet point 1 and 2 will be removed. The third bullet point will remain in terms of the 5-year capital project plan.
Okay. And so Martin just wanted some more time to go over some of the reports and do some more data entries before bringing it to us. So all in favor of these changes? Okay, thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Do we have any? Seeing none. We have no delegations tonight. So we'll go on to 6.1, general government, nil. 6.2, finances, nil. 6.3, public works and environmental services. We'll start off with 6.6.1, which is the short-term rental accommodation. And I believe Andrea will speak to this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. To bring everybody up to speed on where we're at in the process this evening, we're presenting the third draft of the short-term rental licensing bylaw, taking into account the discussions we had at last meeting, which I'll go through and highlight the changes that were made. So we included definitions for hosted and unhosted properties that you'll see within definitions on page 2 and 4. That was the idea of allowing us to track hosted and unhosted properties, so that we could potentially make provisions in the future for properties that may be hosted if we ever get higher than the 50 license limit. Section 5.3, there was some discussion about children, young children, and whether they should be included in occupancy counts. Staff spent some time discussing this after the meeting and felt comfortable with allowing persons under the age of 2 to not be counted in occupancy. Reflects what happens on airplanes, also puts enforcement officers in a bit of a nicer position where if there just happens to be a baby on the property, it doesn't cause a lot of issues with extra people on the property. Moving on from that point, beyond the discussion from the meeting last time, staff was discussing how license application fees would be taken in. We are asking for applicants to pay for the entire fee upfront, but it may happen that when someone applies, they may find out fairly quickly that it's a short-term rental may not be the thing for them to operate based on issues of legality of buildings, lack of septic system. Lots of things can happen in our initial research. So the idea of paying the application upfront and then having some provisions for a refund if they decide to walk away before there's inspections of the property. So just at the administration phase and the research phase where we still are asking for the full amount upfront because that will help to pay for the cost of the program, but having some flexibility to be able to give money back if people choose to not operate. I think that will also have people more likely pay us and come to discuss things as opposed to potentially hiding issues and not looking into whether this will work for them or not. We've also included the application form that we're proposing at this time for information, along with a checklist and declaration of applicant, and that's on pages 39 and 40 of your package. It's also showing the sample floor plans that we'll be asking for, the sample site plan. It was brought up to my attention from one of the counselors that they'd like a little bit more detail on the site plan to really enforce where property boundaries would be. So we could put on lines that ask for approximate distances from the cottage or the house to property lines, just to help renters know where they can access the property and what's off limits to them. And we've also included a licensee code of conduct and acknowledgement, which again, a counselor brought up the idea of enforcing the education of renters on property lines. So there could be an addition to number 5, where it says a copy of the approved site plan, including parking provisions, waste disposal, and property boundaries would be listed there. We're already asking licensees to post the site plan. We'll just include the fact and review with them how important it is for them to tell the renters where they can and cannot go. Those are the major changes that came out of our last discussion. Additional questions that came from counselors, just enforcing that the designated responsible person will be meant to respond to either the municipality or renters, 30 minutes to respond, 60 minutes to be on the property. And also, reiterating that this may be a difficult thing to enforce, but we do have to put some kind of expectation on this designated responsible person to make every best attempt to be responsible for the property. And also there was a question about boat inspectors spending time on boats. If it's a water access property, how will inspectors be made safe on these boats? Anyone getting onto a boat would have to be have training in place to know how to act on a boat, I suppose. Also ensuring that there's safety equipment on board. I'm also actually going to be proposing the idea of having safety life jackets available to staff members that are just belong to us and supplied by the municipality. And also always reinforcing with inspectors that if the weather's no good or if a boat shows up that looks unsafe, the inspector can always say that they're not getting onto the craft, because we always want to make sure our employees are in a safe position. Also, I forgot to mention, we did include the provisions for obstruction of an officer in the demerit point, which we had missed. So that was brought into place as well. So I'll open it up to discussion, but just before I do, just reminding council that our intentions and our timeline for passing this bylaw, we were hoping to be able to pass this bylaw for the next meeting of November 15th. So any concerns or questions, please let them be known now so that we can address them for you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Andrea? Mayor Peugeot?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Andrea, Melanie, Kevin, and Riley for putting this this bylaw together. I know that you've all worked very, very hard, and I think it's a very good and comprehensive bylaw. And thank you for putting the obstruction of officers. I also noticed you did put in about the compliance to show that they do have proof of insurance on their property, because I think that's really important for them to see. Some people, may think that it's maybe a little bit strict, but the idea of this bylaw is to keep our tourists safe and our homeowners enjoying their residences year round without any obstructions of anything. And I think you've captured that in the documents. So thank you very much.
Counselor Veal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I'm glad to see we added the bed and breakfast for definition and a hosted property also. I just came to my attention today, somebody was asking if it's a bed and breakfast, but they're advertising through Airbnb. But it is a bed and breakfast, would it need to be licensed?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, it wouldn't, because they would fit, if it does fit the definition of bed and breakfast, which means the person is living in this building and letting out up to 3 bedrooms, then it just wouldn't be a short-term rental. So they could still ask for people to come and stay, and use it as a bed and breakfast, but they would have to fit that definition of bed and breakfast.
Right.
And if it becomes an issue that we see more and more bed and breakfasts, then there was the idea that perhaps we would look to license that.
In the future,
Mhm.
if it's a problem. Thank you.
Is Counselor Will?
Through you, Madam Chair, just with respects to the contact number, I was reading through the document and said it had to be supplied to the municipality. What about the neighbors? If they have a noise complaint, would like to contact somebody directly and not have to liaison through a third party, would that be a consideration?
I'll have to get back to you on that, Counselor Schneider. That was something that had been included in drafts in different portions. I could see it being something in the licensee code of conduct to make sure that we recommend that neighbors be informed. I don't think we could necessarily enforce that they be informed, but I think anytime a neighbor knows what's going on with a property, it can always help to make sure there's no friction between property owners. So I will review that and make sure that I answer that question for you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Angela? Counselor Roger?
Through you, Madam Chair. We set a limit of 2 adults, let's say, per room. Okay, if a couple comes with let's say a 6-month-old baby, which is acceptable to be in the room, shouldn't we set an age limit to have a difference between like babies and teenagers or adults? Because I think it would, leaving it that way, I think it'll open us to some issues.
To you, Madam Chair, we did propose 2 and under as being basically something that wouldn't be counted as a person.
Okay.
But above 2, we would consider them a person. And because the building code says an occupancy is 2 people per bedroom, they would still be counted as part of that occupancy. Now, that's what's being proposed to council. We felt that it was a good concession that would allow for some flexibility, but that's what staff is recommending, 2 and under.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Schneider?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to further on that one, with respects to the children under 2, let's say we have a place that's claimed to be a 7-bedroom, so we're going to have 14 adults. Will we be able to have 14 children under the age of 2 in those numbers as well?
To you, Madam Chair, theoretically, yes. I think anything that's claiming to be a 7-bedroom will have a lot of work to do to get their septic in line. Once you get bigger than a 5-bedroom building, then you're talking about very large septic systems, which would then mean hopefully larger properties, which would then mean hopefully away from neighbors. This is just the logic that I see. But yes, if we're going to not consider children under 2 as people, theoretically, there could be a lot of children under 2.
Thank you.
Counselor Dave?
That just made me think of something. Should there not be like a limit on children under 2 per adult?
No.
Cause I mean, you could have like one couple going in with 12 babies, might not be there, no, but still,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
You want to answer that, Andrea? That's a lot of babies for one couple.
Could I? No, no.
Well, it could
Theirs.
happen, but I mean, it's a lot, it's still a lot.
Doesn't have to be all theirs.
Yeah, but why would you babysit that many kids?
Not me.
Through your Madam Chair, as a mother, I can't imagine a vacation where there would be 12 babies. But that being said, limiting the number of babies. We could put a limit. We could put a limit to any number that council thinks makes sense. 1 baby per room.
Counselor Bob?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Just a comment, people under 2 are still people, but we don't count them. I don't think we can start saying, putting a limit on babies. Listen, this is a new document. If ever it becomes a problem, it can be revised. But I think we can just stay status quo now and see what happens. And there might be other little stuff that will come up that will have to be revisited. All in all, great job to you, Andrea, and Kevin and Mel and the whole team. Thank you.
Counselor Will?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to add clarity to that. Because usually these larger Airbnbs, you're not getting a couple that are renting these places. You're getting several couples to afford the price point. And that was a concern because now you have a couple, and with that couple will come children. And every one of those couples have the possibility of children. That's really, I think, the crux of that ask.
To you, Madam Chair. I think that if we start to get complaints on these types of stays, there'll probably be bigger issues that we would be getting complaints on, perhaps fireworks, perhaps noise. So I don't think that the number of babies will really be everyone's major issue as long as everyone is enjoying the property respectfully. So I think if we can just keep it at under 2, I think that will, as an enforcement team, I think that will be good enough for us to work with at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, do we have any more questions or are we good? We're good. Okay, thank you, Andrea. And I guess this will be brought back on the November 15th where we can approve it and pass it. So in the meantime, if anybody has any more questions they'd like to send to Andrea or need answered in the next 2 weeks, we can do so. Okay. So we'll continue on. We'll continue with 6.3.1 waste management operations. So we have a report from the waste management operations from Kevin. So I will let Kevin speak to this.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So we're just coming back from the last council meeting we had, a bit of a background. Just to remind everybody, Further to the waste management operations report that was submitted at the regular council meeting on October 4th. And we continued the discussion on October 18th. The mayor and council collectively requested further financial analysis on item number 2. That was the 2 40-yard bins, the compactors. The report and clarification exemption to section 24 of the Ontario Regulation 391-21 made under the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act, which speaks to the requirements to have recycling bins in addition to household waste bins at transfer sites, even if the municipality is offering curbside recycling collections to all residents. The regulation was taken into consideration throughout the original report and affected financial obligations to the municipality. Sorry, correction, that the municipality would have to consider when determining future waste collection operations. Staff sought clarification and requested exemption to the regulation through the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority. The authority is the regulator mandated by the Government of Ontario to enforce the province's circular economy laws. The authority shared with staff that the language within the regulation speaks to the producers, being that of the manufacturer, not the generator, in this case, of the recyclable materials. Section 24 references the producer's obligations, which are to maintain the same level of service that the municipality was offering to its residents in 2019. Considering that, the municipality has submitted a project change for our Blue Box program from depot to curbside. When the municipality's recycling services transition in 2025, the obligation will be that the producer-run system will continue to collect curbside recycling and recycling at garbage depots if the municipality operates such system during the transition. The authority and resource body determined that considering the municipality received approval for a program change for the Blue Box program in March 2023, it is somewhat of an anomaly to the obligations. The regulation impacts item number 1 and item number 2 of the report. Further analysis of the financial considerations below, and this reflects garbage only transfer sites now. So item 1, we're using the current system. It's just shifted with without recycling bins at the site. So now the total capital cost is going to be 1.614610. So that's we're just subtracting 20 bins for recycling, and they'll just be waste. At annual operating cost of $558,033, including curbside, it goes to $689,433. Other municipalities do not operate the haul system to its full capacity. The municipalities that do utilize the system do so in a hybrid manner with curbside garbage and recycling. Staff research Seguin Township, which is similar demographics to us. The system they currently utilize is in item number 2. The current system deliverable timeline for item 1 is 18 to 24 months. Some of the pros, we know the system to our haul, right? Staffed sites now, if they were staffed, it would provide, make sure materials are not going into the waste stream. They'd also allow for us to set controls on the volume of waste accepted per household, as we are not doing right now. Some cons, we all know reinvesting the same system and site modification will continue to provide the same operational challenges we have right now. And it also would have the closure of Manettville and Shaw Road transfers would mean that those people would have to now travel a lot further to no level. And staff sites would require limiting hours for the transfer sites. And now on to option 2 for their 40-yard compactor bins. So the cost contracting out for the haulage with modified hours and fence sites So now the total capital cost goes down to $629,704. Total annual operating cost is $454,203. If you include curbside, it's $585,603. Timeline for implementation of this system would be about 18 to 24 months as well. Pros, obviously, if we're contracting the service as out for haulage, it alleviates one of our operators from daily operations. It also reduces the amount of assets that we would have to take care of for maintenance. Staff sites would provide monitoring to ensure that recycling materials are not going into our waste stream. They would also allow for the municipality to set controls on volume of waste accepted per household. Cons, the closure of, again, we're at the same thing as option one, closure of Nettville and Shaw Road means all those residents will have to travel to Noelville. Staff sites would require limiting hours because of the hours to the site. For the purpose of having all relevant updated items, we did include item number 3 again. The cost of contracting out household waste and recycling curbside with Mondays to accommodate our seasonal residents. We just added in the report, the same as last time. Pros, we know that there's no capital investment for the municipality. We actually gain staff resources again. We can put in volume controls, same as the other way. The operation has net zero increase to budget and could be implemented in a short period of time, which would alleviate operational challenges. Cons, the municipality could potentially see startup challenges with contractor routes, truck capacities, as we are unaware how much each household is currently generating on a weekly basis. The municipality would have additional operating costs associated with Sunday landfill operations if the Sunday shift was added. We had to obviously put in some sort of option for the sheds for our private roads. So like we talked about last time, rubberizing the floors, so in case there's any waste seepage to go in. Then we go into the budget implications, sorry. Vehicle and transfer site equipment breakdowns should be expected during the estimated transition period for this option. An interim solution such as curbside garbage collection will need to be established. This will have budgetary implications, but if we go through our on the little chart, I know you guys all have in front of you, for our current system, our annual operating cost is $306,400. Item 2 for the roll-off bins, it's $454,204 with a 2.73, or sorry, for haul system. I'm gonna go back, correction, item 1, haul system, the new purchasing all new equipment is $558,033 with a 4.64% tax levy increase. Item 2 with the compactable roll-off bins, $454,204 with a 2.73% tax increase. Item 3, curbside waste without adding extra day at the landfill, $294 with a 0%. Item number 3, curbside waste with recycling and adding a day to the landfill is $402,754 with a 1.78% increase. I believe if anybody has any questions on the numbers, I believe Mark Fleury's on because he's the one who dealt with those. For the conclusion, just the recommendations council to approve by February a permanent solution for the municipal waste collection system. And I believe there's going to be some questions coming this way.
All right, so we're gonna open up the floor. Does anybody have any questions? Counselor Dave.
I do have a question for Mark Fleury, if he's listening. We're showing here like the tax levy increase on the annual operating costs. But does the capital cost have any effect on this? Doesn't show on here,
The,
or is that included?
yes, the amortization on capital is included in the operating costs. So the actual purchase of the capital assets, it's just a reduction. It's you borrow or you borrow funds to finance the purchase. But because it's a purchase of an asset that's being used for a service that's going to last like 10 to 12 years, the cost is amortized over its useful life, and the amortization expense and interest expense is included in those annual operating costs.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mayor Pajot?
I think you'd be shocked if I didn't have any questions, right, Kevin? Through you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple questions, and then I'm going to make comment and hope to hear from councillors. In Albin, why would we need a station when we have this almost beautiful ACC, which is already all set up with cameras for our bylaw officers? So you wouldn't need a station because you see them coming in. And if somebody's going to the bins, the attendant can easily come out without be far more comfortable than in a little shack well, I don't think it's going to be a shack, but it's something that's, I don't see necessary. And it's $8,000, which I think is, a waste when we have the ACC there.
Through you, Madam Chair. Just for the first part, it's the relocation of moving it almost behind the building. That's where we're looking at putting it.
Yeah.
Second of all, we run into this problem at the landfill site where the attendant is running back and forth. It's taxing on the employee. To start with, the cameras that are on that site are not up to date. As you remember, we revamped the one in Noelville, and the camera system that we had to put into that was a lot different, a lot more expensive. Just for license reading cameras are a lot more money than the other ones we have. It's just the fact that we're trying to push it away from the actual building into the back, so that way it makes anybody who's renting the halls, obviously they always have comments about having the garbage bin, especially if you're having a wedding or anything else there. And that was kind of the thought that if we're going to move it and we're going to go with the system, it's going to be permanent, out of the way, a proper solution to it, and it expands the parking lot as well.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that if we can move the bins back in the back, it's much more attractive when you're coming into the ACC, not to view the bins than to see the bins. But again, I believe that the amount of times that it's not as if there's traffic like every 2 minutes going to the bins. Perhaps if we only offer shorter service, maybe yes, but I think that's an unnecessary cost. But my biggest question now, and that's for councillors right now, to see where everybody stands. I think I've made myself quite clear on where I stand. My preference is I don't think we can afford option one. So I agree with that. I think option two is better. Yes, it will cost a little bit more, but again, the people who live on waterfront, the people that are in the bush, prefer to have the bins. They need to have the bins. They do not want to have to deal with animals that used to be a problem before we introduced the bin system 20 years ago. Then there's all sorts of questions about why should I have to buy a bear-proof bin, which is an additional cost for them when I'm paying taxes. And I believe that curbside pickup for household is a mistake. That's my opinion, and respectfully, it's up to council to decide where they would like to go. And tonight, I would like to hear where councillors feel about one or the other system.
Councillor Bob?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I have to agree with you, Madam Mayor. We cannot and we can afford, or we cannot go back to item one. It's when we started this 2.5, 3 years ago, we all knew changes would have to be coming. I had the chance this summer through traveling down Seguin Township of going in and taking a look at their bins, their 40-yard compactors, and I don't know if that's the size they have, but it's something similar. I was looking at Noelville 2 years ago, where you'd see all kinds of garbage scattered all over the place. That discouraged me completely. I am in favor of item 3 of household pickup. I know some residents, waterfront residents, they like the luxury of bringing in their garbage and to the bins, and sometimes putting it in the bins, sometimes putting it beside the bins. Let us not forget we're trying to accommodate them as much as we can. We're talking about opening our dump site on Sundays. Late this afternoon, we received an email from one resident stating that, well, the people out, say, in the, I'm going to say the east section of our municipality, if they can't take 10 minutes to go to the dump site, well, there's something wrong. We're trying to give them that disservice. Some people say, okay, I shouldn't have to buy a bear-proof garbage container. It was your choice to buy your property, your camp, where you did. It's the same story for all the services. Well, fire protection, I'm far from you bought there. I mean, it's your decision. It's all our decision. It was my decision to buy where I did. Bottom line, we cannot afford any other system. If we can't overtax the majority of our residents, so that a select few have the luxury of just dumping it's your garbage. You have to be responsible for it too, like anything else. And I'm going to use the same phrase of a wise man, one of our counselors. I've said my piece. I've said enough. So that's where I stand, and I reserve the right of coming back. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I probably said all of this in the past, and I'm going to just repeat myself and say that option 3 is the only way to go, in my view. I think we have to go that way. And we all recognize that there will be some issues for some of the people in our community. Well, we had the same thing with curbside recycling, and we've been dealing with these, and we're continuing to deal with them. And we're going to have pretty satisfactory solutions in the final analysis. And my view is that the people who are very remote, as far as waste pickup, curbside pickup is concerned, and we all know what are the areas that we're talking about, I think these folks are going to come around to recognizing that they have to make some considerations in order to make this thing work for them. And there are options for them. And I also believe that some of those options may require a little help from the municipality. I think we've helped the curbside recycling pickup with the sheds that we've created and so on. And I think that we'll be prepared once we can think of, or our citizens think of ways that we could make it work better for them, that we can help them do that. But right now, we don't know exactly what all the little issues will be. Some of them are invented very easily by some of these people, and we all know them. I mean, I'm one myself. We live pretty rurally too, and I'm prepared to make a facility to handle my garbage so that it doesn't get spread by the animals or the birds, and others are going to have to do that. I don't think we can expect to put plastic bags of garbage out on the side of the road almost anywhere. If they're going to be there very long, it's going to be subject to animals or birds, and there's no getting away from that. And there is the issue of the snow plowing in the winter and what happens to bags of stuff as the plows go by. But I think we can work these out, and I think the objective that we should be looking at in item 3 is simply costs and how we can save money and over the long run. And if it requires us to spend a few bucks here and there to help people accommodate or learn how to use the system, or for any of us to use the system, we'll do that. But I think we should proceed with this. I think that I don't think there are any other options. Let's put it like that. The other 2 options are no longer feasible. And as has been already stated, if we tried to go on with the bin system, we know what that means. We've had more than 20 years of trying to make it work, and nothing we've done will make it work satisfactorily. And there's such a huge cost, capital cost right now, just to put the bin system back in place, because of what we'd have to buy in terms of bins and trucks, et cetera, and the movement of some of this stuff. Let's put that money into getting a curbside system set up and help people where we need to help them. We'll figure out ways to do it.
Okay,
I'll leave it at that.
thank you,
Madam Chair.
Councillor Dean. Councillor Dave?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna agree with Bob and Dean. I'm for option number 3. I think there's gonna be issues with any system that's put in. But I think this is the one that makes the most sense and that services the most people, is even option 2, which is only Alban and Noelville. Shaw Road is a good distance from Alban and Noelville. Monetville is a good distance from Alban and Noelville. So I don't think that would service those people very, very well. And I'm gonna just agree with everything that Bob and Dean said. And I'm for option 3.
So I'll go next. I'm definitely not for option 3. Option 1 is too much money. Option 2 could be an option, but most of my residents are Monetville and all the way down to Shaw Road on this side of the village. So these residents would not have a bin site. And I think if you look at the Monetville site, it's pretty clean. Most, like in all the sites that there is around, they keep a very nice, clean area at their bins. I think that in the last 2 years, 3 years, I think we can see that the Noelville area with all the extra fencing and cameras, the monitoring is 100 times better than it ever was. Not too often do we see any messes there anymore. People are respecting the rules. They are going 3 days a week. I think it's worked. I think that we've implemented that. We've been doing it for a year as a trial, and people have respected what we put in place. I think that works very well, the 3 days a week. I'm not in favor of closing down Shaw Road nor Monetville. That is a big no for me. I know that I've heard from many of my residents out there, they are not in favor of garbage pickup. They are totally against it. And yes, most of them are seasonal people. but there are still some that live there year round. I know that right now, some of them, a lot of the older people do not do the recycling because for one, they find it hard to bring their bin out to the road. They can't bring a full bag of garbage to the bin, so they're bringing little bags at a time, dumping them in. I know for a fact, just this week, recycling didn't even get picked up on the one side of the village. So it's an honest mistake, I know. I myself am sitting with two full bins in the basement because I didn't realize they were gonna pick them up on the next day and I didn't want to leave them out for the animals. If this happens, which could happen in the wintertime with the storms we have, we're gonna have garbage sitting there 24 hours or more on the side of the roads. And when the plows go by these side roads, you know, there's a whole bunch of not just animals, but I mean, weather-wise. I know for me, I'm against it. I'm against garbage pickup. I know it would facilitate and it may be cheaper for a lot of, for the municipality in the long run, but I know that my constituents, I will say a good 85% to 90% of them like the garbage bins and they would like to continue with those. So I represent them and that's what I would like to see is probably option 2 with keeping Minettville and Shaw Roads open. Even if it's only one bin at each site, that is what I would suggest for my opinion. Does anybody else? Bob?
When you say you'd like to keep Minettville and Shaw, my apologies, through you, Madam Chair. When you say you'd like to see Shaw and Minettville open, you're talking about a 40-yard compact. So that would make 4 instead of
One at
2.
one at each site.
One in Noelville, one in Albin, one at Shaw Road, and one in
Yes,
Minettville.
yeah.
So that would double the costs of
Well, it would be a lot more,
that
but
system.
yeah.
Also, I omitted to mention a while ago, last week or maybe the week and a half ago, I had asked Michelle Clark to send you a copy of an email she had received through the summer from the OneUp person. And correct me, Michelle, if I'm wrong, the OneUp person that's taking care of their garbage there and they're trying to set something up. I think you all saw the email. And most of the residents there were saying, why should we buy in and pay for garbage in OneUp when we can dump it off on Shaw Road or drive on 64 in Albin and get rid of their garbage? And at the other end of in Minettville, we've heard of instances of this happening, that we are taking care of garbage of non-residents and we're getting our residents to pay. I just want to bring that up. Thank you.
And yes, Bob, I agree. We still have issues with that, but that is the reason we hired a second bylaw officer, was to patrol these and put cameras out and make sure that the people that were dumping there were being caught. And so we are issuing fines for that. So obviously, if it's still going on, we're not patrolling enough. And that is the reason why we hired another bylaw. So I don't think that our residents should be penalized or lose a service that they enjoy because other residents outside of our municipality are abusing our systems. I think that, you know, we've come a long way in the last 3 years with everything we have implemented. Yes, there's still work to do. Yes, there's still people that are going to abuse it. But I think that if we keep on it and we, you know, have those cameras out there, we never put up cameras at the other 2 sites in Shaw and Minettville. We only did Noelville and Alvin. So, you know, I know we did have Riley out there in Minettville for a little period of time. I drove to, you know, Verner almost every single day back and forth. I didn't see much of an issue with the garbage bins in Minettville. And I know that the residents in Shaw Road, they want to keep their bins there. They do not want to go to garbage pickup. And these are people that live on the water and they pay big taxes. And so, yes, they don't want the garbage pickup. My job is to voice what they want, and that is what they want. So Either or, if we go back to the way it was 20 years ago, people were throwing their garbage on the side of the road and the side. And you can say no, but yeah, people used to leave the camp and away on the side, you know, in the ditch it went. It was all over the place. We don't have that issue anymore. We may have the issue of having garbage on top of the bins at the landfill at the sites. But that, at least it's contained within an area. It's not all over in the side roads down, and you look at Montegarin, go look down there, what it looks like because of garbage that was thrown over the side. And I know, I remember Trout Lake has the same issue, you know, so there is no, I realize we can't please everybody, but I know that the constituents down, you know, in my, like I said, in my area, my ward, you know, they want to keep what they currently have now. So they want that service, so.
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, and I agree with most of what you say, and you wouldn't expect any more. Our bylaw department consists of 1.5 people. We have our manager has other duties also to do. But with 1.5 people, we can't expect them to monitor 4 sites all the time. They can go back and look at cameras and films or however it works. But one of the things also with the bin safe, I think we all agree that what we have now, we're not going back to it. I think that's a done deal. We know it doesn't work, but if we go with option 2, and that could be a very good remedy to our problem. The only thing is the cost that I'm looking at bottom dollar. And if we use money to go with item 2, we have other projects on the table that maybe we should keep a bit of money and to do those projects. That being said, one thing I think, and that Madam Mayor was trying to maybe push us tonight is on making a decision and let's get something started. Because the lifespan of our current equipment, those bins, with the freezing weather, the bottoms are just gonna come out and we won't have anything left. If we don't start moving, time-wise, if we to order these bins, to get them in, we'll have to do something in the meantime. We won't be able to use these bins that we have now. We might have to go to curbside pickup for a year before if we decide on item 2, before we get the proper equipment in and this, but we do have to make a decision. And thank you for now.
Okay, we're gonna hear from Councillor Roger and Councillor Will if they wanted to share their opinion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was surprised to find out how many people watch what's going on tonight by the calls and emails I got in the last 2 weeks. Turenne Road, Delamere, Trout Lake Road, Trout Lake Campers Association do not want garbage pickup. As their counselor, I have to go by what they tell me. I'd say 9 out of 10 don't want garbage pickup. And there were some of these letters or emails were quite serious. So this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Councillor Will?
I would have to say option 3 would be nice. I don't think we're situated. We're not a city proper, nice cookie cutter streets and certain distant driveways and certain feet from each other. And our municipality is too diverse for that. And as you mentioned, we have a lot of waterfront people who pay a lot of money to be there. They put a lot of money into the coffers. I think option 2 is the way to go. And we should start looking for ways to implement option 2. We got to keep our collection sites. I like your idea as well with respects to Manettville and Shaw Road still being serviced and maintained. I think that we shouldn't be cutting the municipality corners down like that. I'm curious, and I can be educated with respects to this too. I'm wondering if, I know what concern was getting away from those waste collection sites was because of use. Can we not electronically monitor these sites to a point that we can easily catch offenders and hold them to task? And I'm wondering if we could maybe investigate ways of doing that. I think that when you pinch people in the pocketbooks for doing things they shouldn't be doing, I think they do it once and will abandon that activity. We should look at maybe ways of monitoring it that way. Just to reiterate, I think option 2 is a way to explore and discover and make it work. I've spoken to several people who are concerned with losing the ability to drop their trash off, mainly the waterfront owners when they come in for the weekend and they leave Saturday night, leave Sunday night, and they don't have an option. They don't have a place to put their garbage. On the way out, they'll roll by one of these sites and they'll deposit their trash in these sites rather than leave it on the side of the road and hope it's in a secure bin, hope it doesn't get tampered with, and that it gets picked up on the day of choosing. Again, I think option 2 is the way to go and explore. Thank you.
Does anybody else have comments? Councillor Dave?
I'm just wondering, like, not, like you're saying to keep Manettville and Shaw Road open. So that would, like, 40-yard bins at both sites?
Yeah, that's.
So now we're doubling what we're talking about cost here?
Well, this says,
Because we're only looking at 2. For option 2 places.
I'm just trying to think. So option,
Alvin and Noelville
I think Kevin has the answer to what you're looking for.
and we don't
through
have-
you, Madam Chair. We did cost out, if you go back to the last report for the 2 extra compactors, because it was in there for the recycling. That doesn't include like what it would cost to actually set the sites up, but you can take that cost if you need it for just for reference, because we did cost it all out for those recycling bins and now we're up to 2. But as we are talking about that, I just want to let council know that we don't own those 2 sites. One is M&R, so that's based on a C of A approval change for that one. So that's if they allow it. And the other one's on private property. And with talks with the property owner, they are not interested in having any sort of fence or anything in that site. And the contract is actually out of date right now. So we are waiting. So for those, just to talk about Shaw Road and Manettville.
and we don't have power at those sites either. Electricity.
Correct, yes.
Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I notice in option 2, these compactable bins, which are new, I presume that it's something we don't have now, so. But I don't see anywhere in this costing any new trucks. Are we gonna need new trucks to handle those bins?
No, because it's contracted out. So we would contract out the pickup. So there's no cost to, we would save on a staff time because our staff would not be going to empty the bins. So option 2 is to contract out the work, not the municipality doing the work. So we would provide the infrastructure, but the actual work would be done by a contractor.
But I don't see that here either, the
Yeah.
cost for contracting.
Yeah, here, I'll show you. Right here, Dee. This is, that's the contract.
What I'm looking at, I don't see any contract costs.
If I may, Madam Chair, under item two, contracted costs for the yard
Oh,
roll
yeah.
off dump and
Yeah, got
return
it.
waste, right
Yeah.
at the bottom.
He's got it.
So do these costs then for the bins here include the contract cost?
So everything's, so if you look at contracting cost,
Yeah,
there's your contracting cost. So the contractor would be 204,713.60, correct? Kevin?
Correct, that's just for haulage. The site.
The haulage, yeah.
The site is ours and we maintain it and
That's right.
we clean up and do everything else. It's just the haulage.
And then it includes also the curbside recycling in there.
Just put your mics off, so it doesn't echo 3 times. Maybe a question for Mark Fleury. How much reserves do we have put away for, I'm assuming we do have some money in reserves for garbage?
We have year-end balances reserved for landfill closure cost of about $400,000, but that's for the landfill closure. It's not really for the transfer sites, or that's not the intent of the reserve. Is for to help finance the landfill closure costs that will occur when landfill is closed. And
So we have no reserves for our bins or trucks or none of that right now.
No, we did because of the last the capital cost that we incurred with the landfill compactor and other equipment. We're projecting a negative reserve balance next year for equipment and vehicles, which will be recouped in the following years with amortization that's being reinvested. But this is just for current capital cost replenishment, not for additional capital costs for this project. So if you're looking at that's why there's borrowing costs involved in these scenarios.
Okay, another question I have, so we have, compactor RJ 250 is 64,000, but then if we look both locations, it drops down to 58,970. So is that because if we purchase 2, they give us $5,000 off? And are there options of having smaller bins at the other locations? I realize Manedville may be a problem since we don't own the land there, but in Shaw Road, we may be able to reach an agreement with M&R. If it's been that way for the last 20 years, they may be willing to keep going with that agreement. So can you answer that?
Through you, Madam Chair, just the cost difference is just because of the amortization amount. And we were just trying to figure that out as you were chatting.
Yeah, the
But we missed
amortization is
second part.
the $58,970 and $970.40 is just all the plus the 4,000 is just the capital assets divided by 10 years. That's all.
Okay, so then it's $64,000 per bin, those 40-yard bins. Is there smaller options for like the other sites that are smaller? Can we maybe look at something like that for the smaller? It's what I would like to know, if there's smaller options. I know Manedville, we don't have an agreement. I didn't realize that that wasn't our land. I thought that all our bins were on our land. So that's something new I learned tonight. But like I say, maybe, maybe Shaw Road we could keep and maybe it'd be only that one extra bin and maybe they have different sizes. So anyways, I think.
Okay, I think we need to bring this to a resolution of some kind. Because we can go around and around and it's not fair to staff to wonder what they're supposed to be doing and how we're going to address that. Kevin, you remember a few years ago where we had massive problems at the bin site. I think they were all frozen to the ground and we brought in, a contractor came in and brought in this big I guess it was 40-yard trash thing, and they would empty it. I know you're concerned about the trucks, that they're on their probably last diesel breath, and the bins are not in much better shape. I would say, while we explore this, and I see that option 3 is, you know, three counselors to option 2, and then I guess I break the tie, so you know where I'm going. Would it be wise to shut down the bins, contract out Noelville only and Albin, and get a contractor to put, we can rent, because I know we can rent them for a short period of time until such time as we figure out what to do with option 2, and look at suggestions like what Councillor Renee was saying about smaller bins for Monetville, or if we can still have Monetville or Shaw Road, to see what we can do. But in the meantime, to address the immediate problem of our infrastructure just completely going kaput, can we not prepare right now and get a contractor to come in and put in a bin? We can rent it out, and then we can try it out. And it's a good time to try it out over the winter, because our seasonals are gone, and it gives us an idea how fast it would pick up.
Through you, Madam Chair, just to address your comment about when we brought those in, that was an emergency situation that the ministry allowed. And what you were talking about is more of a permanent solution. You're talking like a long term. This could be 2 years. The problem we have with those is we'd be hauling every day. We'd be contracting, they fill up quite quickly because they're not compacted. Our sites right now, we're picking them up like every day of the week minus Sunday. So just to alleviate the pressure on them. And as you know, like you are saying, we are running out of bins. I just want to be real clear that actually the public works manager told me right before this meeting, 2 are getting pulled from Monetville. They're broke. So we just found that out today. But those 40 yards we put in place were just an emergency measure. What you're talking about would be a C of A amendment, which would take quite a bit of time. But that's something obviously we can look into if council was looking for direction.
Right, because if it's almost an emergency from what I gather from the information we're getting from your department, that, you know, our trucks are just about gone. Our bins are breaking down. It may not last another year. They may not last another winter. And in the meantime, we need to address the pickup until we can work this out. So it could be presented to the government as an emergency. And every branch of government knows that everything is delayed. Purchasing, well, everybody knows that if you want to buy a car, don't plan on getting it for 6 to 12 months. So getting bins like this may be a problem. So I think we should look into that. But I think we need to start narrowing down our options. I totally agree. Option 1 is unaffordable for our municipality. We just cannot afford to go back to the same system where our staff does the work. Option 3, for the reasons I've listed over the last 3 meetings, I don't think is an option as well. And that's why I think option 2, we need more exploration in that option 2 to address Councillor Renee's concerns, and also to give us time to figure out exactly what we're going to do so we can give you an answer by February. So that's where I'm leaning. And
Councillor Bob?
Yes, thank you to you, Madam Chair. And I agree with you. We have to make a decision. Could we not a year ago or whatever, when we started talking about this, we talked about public consultation and this. I would be ready to move and to start working on public consultation, be it that we take item 2, 3, 4, or 47. That we go to the public and let them voice their.
But that's delaying the inevitable. I don't
It's
disagree.
not-
I like public
We're gonna
consultation.
go to public consultation.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I agree. I agree. But
So-
I'm trying to address a problem that we have now. And the urgency of the problem is
Well-
now, right? And so if we can have some consensus, or if not, a vote on what we can and cannot do. I think all of us agree that option 1 is a no-go. I think we have consensus on that, right? Okay, so that, to me, even if we do go public consultation, well, I guess if all the residents want option 1, then they're gonna have to pay for it. But I think that to address the immediate solution is that if there's not a taste for option 3, then let's focus and do the work on option 2 and do it right. And provide the needs so that we can address the situation with our garbage, whether it's temporary or not. And I don't, if we come to the consultation part and I find out that, whatever the residents and Councillor Renee's and Councillor Willie's and Councillor Roger and all the calls I've been getting, all of a sudden there's a switch in tide. It's easier to switch in tide than it is to go back. So if you start curbside pickup, even temporarily, it's like opening a wound that will never close after. And so don't have a problem with going consultation, want to do it by, though I'm not really for just public consultation via email or Zoom or whatever, because I like to talk to people. I like to see them. I like to explain to them, because one question leads to another. So, but according to the environmental committee wants an answer by February 24th. And so that's the only way to do it. Let's start narrowing it down. So now we're down to option 2 and option 3, because we have consensus that 1 is out. So
Mark wants to speak, Giselle.
Just through you, Madam Chair, we've been talking about this. It's an extremely important topic. Completely agree. To ease and move things forward, I would suggest there's a couple things that were put on the table. So one, option 2, you've asked for additional information. I think it should be requested from staff to get that information and report back, because there will be a definite impact if you look at the 2 other sites that you're putting forth. Secondly, we can certainly investigate as Kevin mentioned, the emergency use of 40-yard bins with the ministry, and I'm not going to comment on that request. I'll let the request go in and let them forward their response. Is that fair, Kev?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's great. We'll put it through to them.
And thirdly, I would recommend that council ask staff to put a communication public consultation plan together to present to council for review. And I'm going to say by November 15th, that's a lot to come back, but there is an urgency to get council direction, and that council make the decision based on adequate and accurate information. That's my suggestion to council.
Okay, I'm in agreement with that. One thing I do think, though, public consultation means all residents. Most of our seasonal residents are gone till spring. And so to have a public consultation in November or December is not really feasible when they're all out of town or out of the country. So that is.
Respectfully, Madam Chair, we understand that. Let us come up with a plan and present it to you, and you can comment on it once we have the plan in place for your review. Fair?
Fair. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ward one basically spoke to me the last 2 weeks. Like I said, I've never received so many emails. So to me, the public has talked for my word. And they don't want curbside. Number two, in a sense, we're all, bylaw officers. When you drive through, you check your area. I know I do 2 or 3 times a week. I've caught a few. And they'll respect the fact that you tell them, no, you don't dump here, you go to the dump. So it works well that way. Number 3, animals. I know personally, I had an incident last year with my partner's 3 granddaughters and a bear within 30 feet. And that's Gautier and Highway 67 or 64, I'm sorry. So bears are around, and we don't need garbage at the curbside to attract even more. And we're not only talking about bears, raccoons, any animal can attack a child. It happened in Sudbury not too long ago or about 2 weeks ago, where they were waiting for the bus. There was garbage on the side of the road. On the other side of the kids, a bear. Luckily there was a car that came by and scared it away. But we don't want these, things to happen around here with animals and garbage. Let's, do it the proper way. Thank you.
So I think it's fair to say that I guess we go with what Mark suggested. And we look to take option number 1 off the table, because we all know we're not in favor of option number 1. And then do as Mark mentioned and go from there. Mayor Pejot.
I don't disagree, but I think on November 15th, we have to make a decision. Once we see what the plan is, once we see the extra cost for Monetville and Shaw Road, and then we need to make a decision. And the outcome, we'll see I have a pretty good feeling now what the outcome will be, but let's do a lot more work on option 2. So I'm prepared to wait till November 15th.
Councillor Dave.
We do have to address the emergency like right away. That's, yes, that's something that needs to be. But that doesn't mean, I don't think that means that we can't do the public consultation. Like when I say public consultation, I'm thinking of like what we did for short term in the trailer bylaw with the surveys and emails and stuff like that. Because of course, all the seasonal are not here right now, and we can't wait for them to come back because we have to make a decision before then. And I'd like to see what the public has to say in the consultation before making the final permanent solution. So I'd like that to move along as fast as possible. So if it's possible to get that looked at for next meeting, that would be good.
Okay, so I think we have consensus and everybody were good with Mark suggested. Dean, you want to say something?
Just very shortly, that if we are to have an idea where we're going on November 15th, how do we have public consultation between now and then?
That's what the plan's going to come. There's going to be a plan put in place for public consultation, and then a decision on November 15th will be how to deal with the emergency and where do we go from here with public consultation. So it's going to cover everything.
Okay, so we all good with that? Does that sound reasonable? Okay, so we'll continue on. So we'll go, are you okay with that, Kevin? We'll continue on to 6.3.2. We have the chair report of the Environmental Committee, Advisory Committee. So Dave, if you want to speak to that.
That's Bob.
Oh, it's Bob. Sorry, Bob. I see Dave with notes, so I thought. Oh, okay.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Madam Chair. Dave is the pretty one. Yes, we had our meeting, and I forget, when, October 25th. We've, again struck, we talk about Earth Day, we've struck our subcommittee for Earth Day. This subcommittee is meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, here. We're again starting a little earlier in our planning and our vision of what we want to see. So we're meeting tomorrow morning. Our second topic of discussion at our meeting, guess what? Curbside recycling statistics and the whole garbage program. You've all had the minutes and we've discussed it enough. I'm not going to go back into all this. Although the committee members were very concerned, and you can see by the resolution they put forward that they wanted this issue to move and whatnot, and I think we have addressed it without pushing this. We had a roundtable discussion about someone brought up the hazardous waste, and it should be maybe more often than twice a year, and this and that. At our next meeting, Kevin's going to have a report with us. Cost-wise, is it feasible and stuff like this? So this is all for information. And let me tell you that our meeting was longer than what I've condensed the minutes into. So, and I'd just like to thank our staff of for the environmental committee of all the hard work they put in, and thank you, and I hope you picked up lots of candies yesterday. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have questions for Bob, or we're good? So we'll continue on to the chair's report for Public Works Advisory. Dave, now it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So we had our meeting Thursday, October 26th. There's a lot of good discussion. One of them was about the three-way stop at Notre Dame West, but I'm not gonna speak too much on that, as that's gonna come back, as Martin has, that's the item we removed there. So I'm gonna skip that one for now. We went through our winter operations and we kind of discussed what was contracted out, what we do by ourselves, and what the cost of those might be, the differences. We didn't have any resolutions or recommendations about that. But we do have the 5-year road plan update that everybody has in front of them. I don't know if everybody's went through it. And the Public Works Advisory Committee has recommended to council to adopt a 5-year road plan that we have in front of us here.
Okay, so a resolution, we have a resolution. So I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the road plan. Councillor Will and Councillor Bob. Do you want to read the resolution?
Whereas at their meeting held October 26, 2023, the Public Works Advisory Committee considered the 5-year road plan report and have submitted their recommendation for council's consideration. Be it resolved that
Okay, all in favor? Okay, we'll continue on to 6.3.4. We have a quarterly report from the Public Works Department. Martin?
Good evening, everyone. I'm just pulling up my quarterly report. I'll just do a quick overview of the Public Works third quarter. We had four key highlights for the quarter we completed our road rehabilitation projects for 2023, which included Mercer Road, Jean Street, Woodville Crescent, Haas Road, Gauthier Road, Lee Street, and one more. I think that's it. Which included all rehabilitation and resurfacing. On our quarterly report, you'll notice a couple things that are different this time. We've removed the fleet aspect and created a different quarterly report for that. And we added a few more items. The Public Works Department had replaced and or contracted 9 culverts this past summer. We've installed 8 new 911 posts and plates. We've had 3 entrance permits, among other things. No flooding, 1 washout on Whippoorwill Road. That was a beaver dam that let go. No significant damage to the road. It was all repaired within the week. We've installed 55 road signs, which include everything from warning signs, curb signs, road names. And we've had about 26 road requests, which could be anything from grading to dust control to trees down. A couple of our contracted services, a few streetlights were out, streetlights repaired. And 1 dam removal. No trapping was done this quarter. If anybody has any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Martin. We'll continue on to the Environmental Services Department, the 3rd quarter report for that. Kevin?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I'm sure everybody's sick of hearing my voice here, so I'll go pretty quick. Some highlights for this quarter. We held our hazardous waste event on September 16th, diverted 15,300 liters and 695 kilograms of hazardous waste. Our summer sampling monitoring program was done at the landfill site. Some stats that was gonna go off the back of the transfer sites. Public Works spent 43 hours in Q3 removing bulk items at the transfer stations. We had to remove 3 bins because they were unsafe. So we're up to 15 that have been removed this year. And then some positive news for our recycling program. So for Q3, we had 30.69 tons removed from the landfill. And for curbside, we're up to 27.09 tons. So that's up from Q2 at 6.58. You'll see that influx because that's when we remove the recycling from the transfer site. So people are using it. So that's kind of nice. We're still at 0% contamination. So across the board. So that's pretty much it for me for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Being none, we'll keep going on. We have the quarterly report for Operations Fleet Department. And Michelle, are you doing that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the agenda package, we have a brand new report, and this is for the operations and fleet. On this report, you're going to see our CVOR for all of our equipment and vehicles. Included in it is our violation rate and our carrier safety rating. Each department is broken down by what vehicles and equipment are used. And the quarters show how many days they've been tagged out meaning that there's major deficiencies with them, which have led to us contracting out or using our mechanic to fix them. The total for the quarters and our repair hours. The repair hours are only mechanical time and not contracted. However, the annual cost, which is to date, includes the contracted. We have a couple key highlights for this quarter, which is the modifications to the GMC C370, which was a fire truck that had been passed over to Public Works Department, which we have modified into a water truck. So we can put water on our roads when they get dusty or prep them for calcium application. And the second one was we received our new F-250 last month.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Michelle? Okay, seeing none. We'll keep going. So 6.4 recreation and community services, we have none. 6.5 emergency protection services, none. 6.6 building and planning, we have 6.6.2, the chair's report of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, which is, Will?
I'll speak to that. Sorry, I don't have the date that we met. I'll go through the items covered. So we discussed an e-charging station and the next steps. We've been looking into finding desire and areas to install e-charging stations in the municipality. So the staff gave a verbal summary of the report in the agenda package. So the committee members agreed that the locations to be determined in the application should be at the community community centers in Noelville and in Alden, or in locations central to town's amenity on a public property, have access to internet and the power grid. Through the application process, we have the ability to put 10 potential sites in the area. The committee indicated that they would like primarily to see sites in Alden Community Center and Noelville would be the most logical because of the location to the highway and proximity, the central proximity to the municipality. We were also talking about installing QR codes and almost like an information center on what the municipality has to offer at these charging stations. It's not going to be like a gas station where you can fill up and 10 minutes later you'll be done. There'll be some charge time involved, so some reading material would be nice. So some local things to do in the area, restaurants, things to see, things to do. Also a QR code that will bring you to the municipal sites calendar, which will bring you up to date on local events. Then we went on to talk about the community visioning plan. So we had a verbal update from staff. Staff gave a verbal summary of the status of the visioning plan consultation, indicating that the consultants completed 2 public hearings, one in Noelville and one in Alden. The survey and the focus groups were also conducted. The council had their second and final planning session in October. The consultants are compiling data for a final report and the visioning plan and the 6 economic sectors plan to present to the council on November 1st. Oh, that's us. So senior housing plan, we went on to talk about, and we had a verbal update as well. Staff gave a verbal summary of the status of the affordable senior housing project that the municipality's been looking into. The consultants, DESCON, completed their committee consultation through public presentation, and a survey opened on July 26th of this year and closed October 2nd of this year. The consultants are reviewing the data and will present their findings once available. During the roundtable discussion, we brought up items of last meetings. Member brought up old business with previous roundtable regarding business improvement in the area, business licensing, and how we can determine if the municipality should be organizing these items or if the chamber is a better candidate. So we're trying to look at ways of streamlining things that we do here in municipality and who are better to do the heavy lifting with respects to these ideas and implementation of these plans. Members brought to council each the community events calendar, as I mentioned, the QR code linking the website to see how successful the trial has been, for people scanning the code to see the community event calendar. So far, there has been 42 scans total. The QR code is on the municipal office just outside the door here. And so the staff suggested that an email go out sharing the QR code with the community businesses, asking them to share the QR code so that their visitors and locals can access the information. So what the thought here was that local businesses get emailed, the QR code can be printed out, can be posted at their points of business, and then visitors or visitors of their establishments can now readily see what is available on the municipal activities calendar. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Will. Anybody have questions for Counselor Will? Seeing none, we'll keep going. We're at correspondence. We didn't receive anything this round. We have our consent agenda, so I need a mover and a seconder for so Counselor Dean and Counselor Roger.
Be it resolved that council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 8.1.
All in favor? Okay,
Madam Chair, sorry. At this point, I'm going to suggest that we hold off. We're about half an hour, 35 minutes behind for our zoning meeting. So my suggestion is that we stop here, and I know that there are people waiting on the other site to do that. And I know the zoning amendment bylaw won't take too long, and then we can return back, take a break, and then return back to the agenda and then go into our closed session meeting, if you're okay with that, Matt.
I'm good with that.
Everybody okay
else?
with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
so do we, we're gonna sign off?
Yeah, we're just going to sign off temporarily. And now people who are joining us on the zoning bylaw amendment, you have to go to the other link in order for you to access it. And Carly needs to do her thing with her phone and do whatever she needs to do to put it. So Carly, you'll put us on hold only, right?
No, I have to stop the meeting
Okay.
completely. So,
And
and
then
then
we'll
we'll restart when we resume.
Okay.
I just have to get Matt to sign in as well to start
Yeah.
that meeting. So just let him know.
Okay, perfect. So you
Okay.
have about 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, may I suggest a quick break for everybody while the technology catches up?
Yeah. You guys,